as you in each wheel, there's split into 3 sections: spells, melee, and ranged. And within those 3 sections, there's 3 things. You can have swords, hammers, and Wolverine claws. Then the magics are blood magic, chaos magic, and
I swear it wasn't me.
And phones be ringing, apparently.
Yeah. And chaos magic and elemental magic. And then ranged is pistols, rifles, and shotguns. But what the unique thing about the game is eventually you'll have enough AP if you just keep farming, because pretty much every single quest is a daily, so you can just do the quests every single day in every single area and just keep going and farming AP and SP. And so eventually on one character you'll be able to beat every single class just by comboing the different weapons and stuff. So
that is unique.
Because in other MMOs, even if you can, say, respec or customize to an extent,
you're still limited. You're heavily limited.
Yeah, you're limited to your class, even if you can change, say, your power sets within that class and stuff. With this, you can literally be any combination of 2 weapons, and you're only binding it. Within that, you can pick 5 activate abilities and 5 passives from the various trees. And that's what makes up the different builds. So and that's it basically. So eventually you will be able to have unlocked everything, but obviously you'll only be able to use 5 passives and 5 activates at a time. But to change class, all you have to do is press N, unselect your abilities, and then just quickly pick another 5 and 5, and you've effectively changed class on the spot.
See, that's really cool. I love that.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Now I'm going to drag us away from MMOs, just because we've been talking about MMOs. And I'm going to drag us towards what Scotty would love to hear. Well, I bet he already knows about the Company of Heroes 2 that's coming out.
That was for Scotty. The little whiny girl voice, just for the sake of the fact that he isn't with us today, but should hopefully be with us next week.
I'm pretty yeah, I'm pretty sure that he's already heard of it, because if you go onto the Steam store, you can already search it up, and they have like maybe a few screenshots, and it's gonna be. It looks, from the screenshots, they really upped the graphics. Really, like they added kind of like the shine to the metal. The explosions look just that much better. And I haven't really gotten to see the zoomed-in version, so I can't see what the infantry look like. You can actually tell more detail about their face. But I know that this time around, it's not going to be on the Western European front. It's going to be on the Eastern with the Russians. So they're going to add Russians to the game.
Oh, come on! It's always for Russians.
You know what?
Call of Duty is Russians. Battlefield's Russians, Ghost Recon is Russians, heck, even Russians is Russians. It's all about the VOD. I swear, eventually there's going to be a game that comes out. I don't know whether it will be free to play or not, but there'll be a game that will come out that will basically put an end to the myth, and it will basically be the world versus Russia over who has control of vodka. And it'll be like, us Russians will never give up our vodka. Vodka is strong with Russia. And so you just have Russian tanks versus English tanks versus American tanks versus Zimbabwe tanks. From just everywhere. That would be a really badass game, but everything is Russia. But I'm still looking forward to Company of Heroes 2.
There are plenty of games that don't include Russia.
Sadly.
Like Generals. Generals does not include Russia. It includes
We
China.
need Russia in Generals 2. That would be so amazing. I'm sorry. No, it's good enough. It's good enough they're in Red Alert 3, don't get me wrong. And they're in the Red Alert series. But if we added them, even if it was just one general into Generals 2, that would be immense. Just so we can hear, there better be vodka on the other side of battlefield. It's great.
I actually can't wait. I wonder if they're going to be adding new generals to that game, or if they're just going to bring in like completely new sets of classes, or like different sub-factions.
Same.
Or if they're just going to have 3.
Well, the thing I'm interested in was, like, in the original Generals, it was, like, USA versus Iran and Iraq and that area versus Korea.
They were called the GLA.
Well, I'm basically giving you an idea as to whereabouts in the world these factions are.
Kazakhstan.
In this like timeline. So you have Americans, like people in Kazakhstan and places like that, and then you have the Koreans, basically.
They were Chinese.
Chinese, Korea, they're both evil. If you are Chinese or Korean and you're a very good person, I'm sorry. I apologize. Sorry, I've been brought up believing the generic stereotype of Chinese and Korean people. Don't blame me.
Alright,
but yeah.
And you have bad teeth. Mr. British
Yes,
man.
of course I do. I'm British, but anyway.
I've got very good teeth, you can go bullets.
That's fair. But what I'm hoping is, in Generals 2, to see if they're still sticking with that idea of having those 3 areas, or whether they're also going to bring in like some British generals into there, some Russian generals, some Japanese generals, people like that.
Kind of like how Red Alert 2 had the different countries that fought instead of just factions.
Yeah, exactly.
And each one had their own different specialty, even though in Red Alert 2 it was only, they got one unit that was different. It was just a lot cooler to have that than in just Red Alert 3, where you had 3 and they were just ridiculous. And you had tech trees for your abilities, not units. I'd rather have different units for each faction, different ways to play as well.
Yeah, like generals I loved anyway, because you had quite a nice diversity. You had like people that were you had generals that were specialists with infantry, generals that were specialists with explosives, ones that were specialists with super weapons, ones for tanks, ones for laser technology. It was very nicely put together, but if you had more generals, you can split it up even more. So you can have generals that are more inclined to, obviously you have your aircraft specialty generals, you have your generals that are more inclined to do I'm gonna sneak up on your ass, take out this building and run the hell away tactics. Generals that are more guerrilla tactics.
People's asses, don't you, Don?
You know me, bit of bum fun goes a long way. But yeah, only on Sundays.
Sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, you know what I mean. I just want to see if they are going to bring in any more diversity into General 2, because there's room there, and if they're willing to go that little bit more ballsy, I think that the community will be more than happy to agree with their motives if they decided to go that little bit bigger, because it also adds in a sense of realism as to the world that they're all fighting in it.
And they're also supposed to be adding in game modes this time, instead of like how with Command & Conquer 4 we might have game modes.
Command & Conquer 4, we're gonna tell you what we have, but then we're gonna completely change it.
Yeah, I mean we're seeing where they have a drop-down arrow from the game modes, and there's only one game mode to select.
I know, it is. And for those people that haven't played Command & Conquer 4 and wonder why it sucks so bad and why you shouldn't get it whatsoever, and if you do, you've just wasted money.
There's actually two reasons.
There are many reasons as to why it sucks, but one of the reason based on game modes is that there's only one mode, and it's not your stereotypical make a base, make your army, go and attack someone. It's point-based. You get points by collecting Tiberium.
And it's not even collecting, it's not harvesting Tiberium. You have to go and collect these little drops around the map and pick them up. And then
all of a sudden, like, the planet's being taken over by Tiberium, but for some strange reason, you can't harvest the Tiberium that's there. You have to collect Tiberium that orbitally drops in from the sky.
Right.
And use that as points and as upgrade points to then upgrade your
base,
so that your crawler or your base to like get more get more get more units, get more upgrades, more super weapons. It basically cocked up what an RTS is.
It almost made it a MOBA with that.
It did.
It was just like a MOBA with mini units.
They should have just called it Command and Conquer MOBA.
CNC MOBA.
CNC MOBA. That would have made much more sense.
For those of us that are more story driven, the story sucked. I mean,
it did.
It was good right up until it was like, well, what the hell? What happened? Like at the end, it just leaves you hanging. Like, well, what's next? What happened? I don't get it. How is this the end? They promised a final conclusion to where we would not feel left out. I felt left out.
I have an empty void inside me.
Exactly.
Like, the only thing that kept me psyched about the storyline was the one and the only Joe Coogan coming back as Kane, doing a fantastic job yet again. I was put off the storyline as soon as you found out you had a wife. Yeah.
She wasn't that pretty.
She wasn't pretty. She didn't really have a nice body or a nice set of assets, to be quite honest with you. She was just annoying half the time. When you saw her die, it was like the biggest and best thing that ever happened to you, which was fantastic. And then you find out she didn't die, and it's like, ugh. It's like as if you're playing Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, and Navi has gone away for ages, and you're like, finally, I can just play the game. And then, like 2 dungeons into the game, she comes back and just is like, "Hey, listen!" every 5 seconds. It's it was just so annoying, and it was the worst character addition they ever made into the game. And unlike the other games where you had celebrity appearances playing as particular roles, in this one you had no one apart from Joe Coogan. And you wouldn't even know Joe Coogan unless you had played the other Command & Conquer games. It was ridiculous.
Well, no. I thought they had a few other actors that were famous actors. Did they not?
Yeah, but I didn't give a crap about them. I didn't care.
It was more
the dude in Command & Conquer 3 who was from Starship Troopers.
Yeah, there was that guy, and then there was I think that guy's name was like Stone something.
Yeah, I love that guy.
Yeah, that guy's voice is awesome. But like also the guy that played the director was Lando in Star Wars.
Lando Calrissian. You had classic, like, no offense, like the actors in CNC4 might have actually been big payoff actors, but none of us knew them and none of us really connected to them. Whilst in Command & Conquer 3, you had the actors that people knew out of Command & Conquer 3, and you were like, wait, that character's awesome. I love that character. Well, in Command & Conquer 4, it's like, can this character die yet? Can I kill this character yet? Okay, when does this character die?
Exactly.
It was gay. Heck, even, like, Red Alert 3 did a fantastic job with voice actors. They had all those different actors doing all those different things, and it was amazing. You had different Russians, you had different Americans and British people. It was fan-mazing.
I think the only people I knew from the Command & Conquer series, or Red Alert 3, I should say, was George Takei, of course. Who doesn't know him? Unless you're not a true nerd. You can't be a true nerd without it. Actually,
if you have a life, you might not know who he is.
And then, and then the Prince as well. It was like them I knew, and then Oleg I've seen. But other than that, I haven't seen many. Because Oleg, the guy that played Oleg, he was actually in Indiana Jones.
True.
He was one of the Russians.
That's
that
true.
Chased him.
Actually, one. You know who played Eva in Red Alert 3?
Yeah.
The blonde chick.
I know her name. Come on.
Because obviously she was a British actress. She was actually in Hollyoaks.
Oh. And
in the UK.
J.K. Simmons as well, and then the guy that played the
Simmons.
British. Yeah,
oh,
J.K. Simmons.
And not forgetting the United States President.
That's what just
Simmons. Just clarify.